very long time, in fact. Uh, and there's a lot going on. But something that nobody knows yet, unless you're part of my Key Learners Piano Club, then a few of you have seen the teaser. I'm picking up a new instrument, the harpeggi, and I've wanted to play this for now 6 years. It's a super long story that I'll probably tell another time, but I just ordered mine yesterday. I did not think it was gonna be happening for another year or 2, or maybe longer, but it is. And so, I'm really excited to kinda make this move and apply all of my piano skills, all my practice skills, and everything I've ever done to this brand new instrument. So, I basically, I'll show you. There's this practice chart. I haven't officially even started yet. I mean, I guess it depends on how you categorize it, because this is a practice poster. It's not the instrument itself. I custom ordered it, so it's going to be 4 to 5 months before I actually get mine. And it's incredibly rare. There's, as far as I know, there's only about 12 to 1500 of them that have ever been made, give or take a few hundred, but definitely it's not a lot. And so I have this poster for right now where I'm going to be essentially just learning the movements, the fingerings, the shapes, the note layout, and everything else, so that when my actual instrument comes, I'll know exactly what to do with it and be able to hit the ground running. So today is officially day 2. I started yesterday, as you can see here, December 3rd, 2025. And what I'm actually doing is basically just messing around with the layout, trying all sorts of different crazy combinations. And of course, this is purely in my head because a piece of paper doesn't make any sound. But um, anytime I notice something, I just write it down. And so I put O for observation, Q for question, because I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of questions as soon as this thing actually comes in. And I've listened to the Harpeggi for a long time. I've watched a ton of YouTube content on it. I love the way the instrument sounds and what it's capable of, at least in theory. And so the goal is to actually revolutionize this instrument and make it more accessible to the public in terms of understanding how it works and what it's truly capable of. There are also no classical harpeggists at this time. There are a few recordings of Bach you can find on the Harpeggi. My dream goal is to actually record the entire Goldberg variations by Bach on this thing. And so when this happens, that's like my first level of I'm I've achieved, what I want. I'm at star status, so to speak, for my personal standard. Now, I'm not going to start with Goldberg variations. I'm starting with scales, figuring out the layout, figuring out how to practice it. And as you can see here, I have Bach's first invention in C major, which it's kind of funny to be having to actually practice this at my level, because as a full-time pianist, who's played repertoire 10 times harder, like, I would never think that I'd have to, like, actually slow down and relearn this and practice it from the ground up. But when you're on a new instrument, obviously, there's only so much skill that's gonna transfer over. And I'm just seeing the chat. Hello, Tracy and Emily. And, oh, yeah, both of you. Yeah. Cool. So, anyway, so I'm really excited. So what I'm going to do today is basically recap everything I discovered yesterday as sort of an intro video for people that don't even know what this instrument is. And like I said, I literally got this yesterday. And so I don't really know that much about it yet, but I discovered enough that I was like, holy cow, the ceiling on this thing is incredibly high. It's way more capable of things than even what the piano can do in many ways. And so I'll kind of break that down today. So let's just kind of dive in. So basically, first of all, it's played like a piano in that when you press it, it just produces the note. When but like the tuning is different. So if you go up, it's like a guitar fret. So chromatic scale: A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D. And then as you go to the right, it's tuned in whole steps. So this is A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and then F, G, A, B, and so on and so forth. So check this out. With just 2 fingers, I can stretch an octave. Like, that blows my mind. that I could just have bunny ears and play an octave right there. And so if it's like Rondo alla Turca, like this is Rondo alla Turca. Dun 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 dun. I mean, like that's just like you could never do that on the piano. I have a keyboard right here. Imagine being able to stretch an octave with those two fingers. That's absurd. Like it's totally unthinkable. But it doesn't stop there. If I actually use my full stretch, I can get not only two octaves, I can get two octaves and a major sixth. So all the way up to F or F sharp with one hand. So like just for context, it'd be this A, not to this A, but almost to this one. That's how far I could stretch on the arpeggio. So I just look at this thing and I'm like, there's a lot of similarities to the piano, but there's so many things that are just going to be like completely brand new. Like, how do you even conceptualize that? As a pianist, I've spent almost 40,000 hours over the last 2 decades learning patterns and voicings and scales in a certain way. And now everything is different. So that excites me and intimidates me at the same time. But I just kind of like have to see it as like I have a lot of music knowledge, but I have no knowledge of this. So it's kind of starting from the ground up. Anyway, I'll just kind of walk through what I discovered yesterday. So this is pretty cool. Scales are fundamentally different. Instead of being like white and black key, now they're basically between the frets. And so what that essentially means is you're still going to have the crossover and under movements of the thumb. But now instead of like a black key being a finger stretching out, it's now the higher fret. So let's just take A for example. You have A, B, here's C sharp. And now the problem is D's up here. So like we don't have to like throw the hand forward on the piano. Uh, so what we do is kind of treat it like this is a white key and that's a black key, essentially. So thumb, two, thumb under, and now two goes up here and I'm on the higher fret now. And then I have D, E, F sharp, and I bring thumb under like that. And now I stretch up to the next fret, and so on and so forth. And so actually, in a weird way, it kind of feels similar, but you're now just having to go forward instead of left and right. So the fingering is almost the same as it would be in like a real scale where you have groups of 3 fingers and groups of 4. You get 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then you're stuck at the top. So you have to now figure out the predicament of to get up higher in pitch, you'd have to kind of work up in sort of a weird pattern at the top range. But that's totally fine. I imagine you're not using the top few notes a ton, and you're not using the bottom few notes a ton, so you're probably doing a little bit more of this kind of thing throughout. It's just guesswork. Um, so anyway, there's that, and then what else? This was kind of cool on chromatic scales. So because chromatics go up, you could technically just play this and slide. However, that's gonna get like a fully legato thing, like dun, and you won't get the articulation of like da 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 that you could get on a keyboard. So the other way to get chromatic scales is to go lower fret, higher fret, and then come down to the next string, lower fret, higher fret. Because since this is only in whole steps, you get A sharp, B, then C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp. So like that's so weird, but chromatic scales are now just 1 2. Like 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Which is shockingly actually really hard because on a keyboard, like I can do something like that. It's not on obviously. I guess I could turn it on. Um, I'm like very used to that spacing. But on this, like the spacing is much more tight. First of all, it's farther away that way, but the left and right distance is more narrow. So it's like it's different in two ways. So I'm sitting there like feeling really pinched. I'm just imagining like I'm like, that's so weird. I almost feel like arpeggia's gonna have a more like rotation based technique because like you can't really heavily articulate with that far of spacing that fast. I mean, Granted, I've practiced it for a day, so maybe you can. But it just seems very awkward. And like you certainly can't go 1, 2, 3, 4 because of how far the fingers would be apart like that. Like that's just not even in the realm. Maybe 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 3. Actually, that's legit. I'm gonna try that as a see. I'm just anything I kind of think of, I'm just putting in my practice journal here. So O for observation, um, chromatic scale could be 1, 2, 1, 3 alternating. I'm not saying that's the best way to do it. I mean, that's where the one drawback to practicing on a piece of paper is that I don't know exactly how it's going to feel. So even though these are the distances of the notes, I don't know the kind of pressure sensitivity that's going to be required until it actually comes. And for those of you that are joining late, I ordered this instrument, but I won't get it till April. So I'm practicing on a piece of paper for now to figure out how it's kind of laid out. It's all kind of mental right now. But anyway, so that's kind of like one way to do a chromatic scale, and then going up is another way. And now here you can kind of blend the two, where you could do, for example, 3 notes up in groups of 3, like 1, 2, 3, A sharp, B, and then you can come down 1 fret and 1 over, and you have C. So you go A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. And I just went from A to A an octave higher. And so you could do that all in groups of 3, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, and it would sound like that. So that's crazy to imagine that you could kind of just roll it in groups of 3. And like I imagine you would probably use that if you wanted like a triplet rhythm based on the accents, like I mean, like just the possibilities here are like gnarly. That's crazy to me. You can also do up 4 and down 1. So if you could 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's still A sharp, B, C, now C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. So then that would translate again the exact same thing here, but it would be felt more in like groups of 4 pulses. And I'm seeing the chat here. I don't know if you could hear the actual keyboard. You should be able to hear that. This is a piece of paper. You won't be hearing anything here. It's 2D. But anyway, so basically, like I imagine you use different fingerings based on the musical effect and the result you actually want to get. But again, this is just sort of conjecture, playing guesswork until I actually have the real thing. So that was cool with chromatics. Similarly with octaves, if you're doing chromatic octaves, you could do the same thing. Like you could go A sharp, B, C sharp, and then come down 1 string. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And that's like da 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 da. I mean, I'm like obviously not even close to hitting in the right spot. All of that would need to be practiced very carefully. It's going to be an entirely new set of muscle memory compared to piano, especially because of the fact that I could play an octave with like 2 and 4. I could do it with 2 and 5. I could do it with 3 and 5. I could even do an octave with 4 and 5 because of how small the stretches are here. 1 and 3, like 1 and 2, that's just a bad wrist angle, so that probably wouldn't work in most cases. And then of course you're having 2 hands on the same plane, so like it's ultimately going to be probably based on like what the other hand is doing, the fingering you use. That's like one of the biggest sort of takeaways of this whole thing is just the simple fact that there are like 10 options for every note. So automatically there's way more choices to be made than you would make on a piano. Because on a piano, you have one middle C. That's it. That's your only way that you could actually get a C out, right? And on this, let's give some context here. So here is C4. This is also C4. This is C4, this is C4, this is C4, this is C4, 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 C4. You can see they go down in a diagonal line. Okay, I'm getting a lot of no sound comments. Can somebody confirm if you can actually hear me? If you can hear my voice, that's the most important part. Um, Original sound. No, that was a mute. I rarely live stream on YouTube, so I don't know if I did something wrong. Yeah, you guys can hear me then. Okay. Well, it should be fine then. Yeah, you can't hear a piece of paper. So you can't hear the digital keyboard with the blue laser? That's quite loud on my end, so I'm not sure why that wouldn't come through. But whatever. It's all good. It's not whatever I'm playing on the piano is not terribly important. That's weird. I don't know why it's not. Like it's literally at max volume. I couldn't crank it up any higher. So it's probably just cutting it out because it's like distorting or something. But whatever. You can't hear this anyway, so it's kind of a perfect match. I'll just not use the keyboard to demonstrate anymore. Um, but yeah, so everything is just going to be weird because there's so many choices. Like even the fact that you don't have to play an octave on the same like row. So for example, I could do A, and that's an octave. I could also bring this same A up here and do this A and that A, and that's an octave. I could bring this A up here, and that's an octave. So I guess depending on the case, I could go octave, octave, octave. I guess in that case, I'd probably have 1/5. Octave, octave, octave. All of those accomplish the same result. And so repeated notes become like impossibly fast without any trial and error because you like this and this are the same A. So I could just take two fingers and go da 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 da, like it's insanely fast. On a piano, you have to actually lift the key and re-articulate it and like da 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 da, and you can still get pretty fast, but it's a lot of effort. Here, day one, beginner level arpeggio players could simply place on two different strings and just rotate back and forth, and you get, probably twice as fast as you would ever get on the piano. Good question, metal on metal. Um, the timbre is very different. It's somewhere in between a guitar and a keyboard. Um, it has a brightness sensor. So some players like to totally crank up the brightness and it sounds very like twangy, almost more like a harpsichord. And some players turn all of that natural brightness down and it sounds more muted like a guitar with like a piece of felt on it or something. Um, so it never really sounds like a piano. That's not the point. But it's truly the hybrid between the piano and the guitar. In that it's a fretted instrument and it's electronic, but it's also based on only tapping and not like strumming or anything. And if you haven't seen them, there's like 100 people. If anyone here has heard of Jacob Collier, he's popularized this instrument. He plays it quite a lot. Stevie Wonder, an old classic, of course, he plays it quite a lot. And Corey Henry. Those would be the three that have pushed it forward the most. But given that this is only from 2007, it's still essentially a baby instrument. Like I think about when Bach first played the piano, it was in the last 10 years of his life and then he died. It had just came out. So he was composing on the harpsichord and the clavichord mostly, and organ. But he was like, "Oh, that seems like a pretty cool instrument. Like I'd like to try it out more sometime." And he never got to. And so Mozart was essentially the first like incredibly significant piano composer because he was the first one to actually write his entire output on that instrument. And it wasn't until like way after Mozart's life that the piano actually got pushed to a new level where it was used in a way that required it to have modifications and have a new model. So Haydn, Mozart kind of played the piano on the safer side, and then you have Beethoven pushing it, breaking strings, wanting the makers to do more with it, and then you have Schubert and the Romantic composers like Chopin and Liszt pushing it even farther, so they had to actually change the way the piano was made to endure the way it was being played. And then that happened yet again by the end of the 1800s until we had more of the modern grand thing. And so it took like over 100 years for the modern day piano to actually go from its prototype to what we have now. And I'm not saying people are going to break arpeggios, but I think given that it's like basically only 2 decades old, 18 years, I don't think people have even came close to understanding what this is capable of doing yet. Even people as amazing as Jacob Collier, who I know, I've met him 3 times and heard him play live, and I've seen him even play this, and like he's obviously on his own level in terms of lots of different things. But he's also like he's not primarily a arpeggio player. I think he just kind of diddles around with it here and there, and because he has a lot of music knowledge, he is able to get a lot out of it. But um, I just think there's so much here that people haven't discovered yet. So my mission is going to be to really figure this out and take it to the next level, the way Ligeti did with the piano etudes, where it's just like completely off the charts, something totally new that nobody could have predicted. Because I'm a composer myself as well. So anyway, do I do this for free? Like these live streams? Because you didn't pay anything to be here. So there's your answer. Um, anyway, so yeah, the octaves, the spreads, the intervals, you could stretch a lot more. What were some other takeaways I noticed yesterday? Double thirds are initially really hard on the piano, and they're even harder here. So the thought of doing like Chopin's double third etude is like that's like even less likely to happen here. And let me show you why. So if we take just the first two combinations of that piece, it's B and D sharp with C sharp and E. So here's B, and there's two ways you could easily get to D sharp. You could come to the side, two frets over. So there's B, D sharp, or you could come up and over and get a D sharp here. So there's the same combination right there. And if it's up here, you're probably going to stretch something more comfortable, like 1 and 3. If it's down here, that's really uncomfortable to do the 1 and 3 crammed. So you're probably going to do like 2 and 3. It's my guess, or maybe 3 and 4, maybe 2 and 4. It also depends on your hand size. But we've got that going on. So like already this is like really hard to imagine quickly going like from this to something else. Like that's as double thirds. It's probably not going to work this way. So you default to this. But now here's your C sharp and here's your E right here. So like to do that would require this spread 1, 3, 2, 4. And it actually kind of looks like it would on a piano, but the spreads are so much farther apart that it feels next to impossible to actually play, um, especially in a really rapid fashion. And then you get the real problem of going down to A sharp and D. Now your A sharp is here and your D is here. So you just went from really spread out to like really cramped in. So it just seems like it'd be a massive pain in the neck to play double thirds. So we'll see how that ends up working out. Um, that'd be something I almost don't even really want to try too much of until I actually get the real instrument in, so that I could really test the size or test the weight of the string pressure and like see how that all feels. But I nonetheless I found that quite interesting that octaves are like easier and thirds are harder. Um, I would have expected kind of like it's either all easier or all harder, but it's just because the layout is so different, you can't compare it. What else did I notice? Um, oh yeah, that there are at least 6 options for fingering octaves. You could do 1 4, 1 3, 1 2, 2 3, 2 4, 2 5, or 3 5, or even 4 5. And here's what the insane discovery I made was that I was blown away at. So check this out. You got an A up here, and let's just pick. You know what? Let's do it up here. Let's do A5, which is like the A above middle C. So A5. Now I can stretch to A4 with my pinky. And then E under that is right here. So I could do that with 3. and then I can come down and grab a C sharp with that second finger, and I could hook my thumb down to another A down here, or even this A. And so this isn't exactly comfortable. I mean, it's pretty stretched out, but it's nothing worse than like some crazy chord on the piano. And what you can't even fathom, because it just doesn't visually represent it, is how far this all is apart. So, especially if I grab the A down here, that's even more crazy. So, what I'm doing right now is actually like, let me just show you on the piano what I could do in one hand would require two hands on the piano. So, again, for some reason, none of you can hear this keyboard, so I don't know why. But what I just did with 5 and 4 alone was up here. Actually, it's an octave lower. So it's this. Then I grabbed this under it, then the C sharp, then the A under that. So it's like a full octave chord with an octave on top of that in one hand. So it would literally never be possible on the piano to do that. I mean, I've met some people with massive hands. There's somebody on my YouTube that actually commented and uh, claimed he can stretch two octaves. I don't believe that because I've never seen that and I've known literally hundreds of pianists. And I knew Daniel Pollack who can stretch a 13th, which is C to A, just two notes shy of two octaves. And that, like, when I saw his hand, it looked superhumanly large. And so to imagine that somebody has two keys more than that, he's probably trolling. But in any case, even if you could stretch two octaves, you can't do a whole chord plus another octave because that cuts off like a whole octave between 5 and 4 when your hand's already stretched out. That there's no way. But on Harpeggi, here it is. A, E, C sharp, A under that. And so just to think of like the amount of massive spreads you could get anywhere is insane. Um, it's it's not even like it's like Rachmaninoff would be jealous, right? Like so I don't even know how to think about that because there are like infinite possibilities on this that are totally impossible to even imagine on the piano. And that's just with one hand. So what if you did some crazy thing like this and that? And that would translate to like, 4.5 octaves on the keyboard or on the piano. I'm like, I can't even imagine the amount of noise you could make if you just oriented yourself, Imagine something like Rachmaninoff's third piano concerto but translated to this. And so you just have and it's just like literally filling up from here down to there because it actually Harpeggi goes down to this low C. So it's this C from C to shining C. And so you could, I mean, it just blows my mind to just imagine this. And this is something that over the weeks and months and years to come, I will be playing the crap out of and figuring out all sorts of different things you could do. I already have a concept for a piece I want to write on it called the Tarantula Etude, where basically the hands are interlocked and doing crazy stuff like this. I mean, you'd have to like pick actually notes that sound good, but I want to have like things that look cool to watch, not just sound cool, but also look cool. That's the kind of garbage that I feel like Rachmaninoff would have done if he had access to this instrument. Um, so anyway, I wrote down a bunch of other really small stuff like, oh, actually, this is really epic. You also would like this. If you play chess, you would really like this reference. So, and if you don't play chess, it will still make sense probably. Um, in chess, there's a move that goes in an L shape, and it goes over two and then over one in another direction. And that's kind of like the same thing here because you have this A, and if you go down 2 frets and over 1, it's the same A. So that's how that connection works. So anytime I'm here, I could go over 1, up 2, and it's the same note. And so that's like a visual marker, A. Those are all the same. And that's weird because as you go up, you're climbing in pitch, but I'm going to the left, which is going lower in pitch. So it's actually the same pitch. And it's a 2-to-1 ratio, so a half step up and a whole step over, meaning it goes higher twice as fast this way as it does that way. So it's just like super, super crazy. There's nothing like that. I mean, the guitar is fretted chromatically, but then you've got like fourths and fifths between the notes. If anyone plays guitar, E, A. Well, I need to hear an E. Oh, wow. I had my pitch on. E, A, D, G, B, E. That was a little bit off, but you get the point. So when you have the frets chromatic, but spread that far apart, they're not that connected. Whereas this are chromatic and only a major second apart. And so there's just so many things that you can overlap. Which means there's something else you can do on this that you can't do on the keyboard. And I do need to show this visually on the piano so you can see. Actually, I'm wondering if my real instrument would actually be heard. I'm not sure. Quick check. Does anyone hear this? If you want to put it in the chat, maybe not. It might be cutting that out too. Well, no comments, but that's fine. So I can still show the point. Basically, when I'm holding a note, let's say holding C with pinky, and then I want to come up and play that C again with another voice, like I can't actually do that. I have to let go of the first C that was held. And so it breaks the connection. But if I had another key, let's say there was another C right here, then I could just come up and play that C here and without ever letting go of this one. And that's exactly what the arpeggio can do. So this changes the game in counterpoint and things like Bach fugues because you don't have to let the keys go that are written longer than is physically possible to hold them. Because here, if this C and this C are the same, and let me take this off the tripod. So if this C and this C are the same, I could hold this one and then play A, B, C, A, and I've been sustaining the C here in my pinky, all while also playing it again here. And so it literally opens up an entire new possibility that was never even an option in piano music. So that's yet one more thing that blows my mind. So anyway, I should probably get in 2 minutes of practice here on my own and be productive, because I want to start learning Bach's C major invention. And yeah, maybe that'll be a future live stream where I talk about like this. I'm jumping into like actual repertoire right away because I want to see what it can and can't do. My goals for this instrument are to learn a ton of Bach and Mozart because I feel like they would both translate well. To learn a ton of video game music covers because that's like my favorite genre that's not classical. And then because I'm a composer, to write a lot of my own original music for it. So those will be the three things I focus on. I'm sure I'll throw in some Michael Jackson and, just something fun here and there, a film score or whatever. But that's kind of what I'm planning to do here. So anyway, there it is. Now, I'm not going to put all of my progress on YouTube. I will do it here and there. But I actually started a free community to just track my progress on this instrument. So if you want to follow along, like what you saw today, and just see how I continue to think of it and learn it, I put the link in the description. It was not letting me copy and paste before I started the stream. So you could just email me and then I'll send you a link. It's, if you haven't heard of school.com, it's just like a little community site that's free of ads and social media and distractions. It's really easy and really fun to use. So I have a little community in there for my journey learning the arpeggio so you can learn more about it and continue to watch crazy stuff like this. And when I actually get it, there will be recordings of me playing it as well inside. So feel free to email me AP, my initials, at aaronpetitpiano.com and just subject line arpeggio or something. And I'll be like, yeah, here's the link. Feel free to join us. So it's totally free. It's just there for people that want to kind of take the next step and learn how I sort of perceive of practice. So today was more just about explaining how the instrument works. But a lot of the future sessions are going to be more like the psychology of practice and how I actually get to things in seconds that take most people minutes, kind of a thing. So, anyway, talk to you all soon. Thanks for joining. Super fun to have a little digital audience here. So, I will see you all later. Have a good evening.